All right, so returning back to our source code, let's go look in our index.html and actually locate these arrows that we want to address next. So if we look within the first question, you can actually see that these are where the arrows actually are set. They come from an image file that I've included in the assets folder, but this is where they actually appear in our HTML. So they both have a unique ID. And as I had pointed out earlier about the collapse class, which is giving that display attribute of none, this up arrow in our beginning state has the collapse class. As you can see, when we first enter into our site, the up arrow is hidden. So when we commented out that collapse class, we could see it. This is going to be key in understanding how we're going to tackle this problem. So to begin, the class is an attribute of the element. Our element in this case is an image tag, and this class, arrow, and up, and collapse are its attributes. So returning back to the jQuery documentation, you can see on the left-hand side here there is a section called attributes. So if we head on over into this category, these methods listed below are going to get and set DOM attributes of the element. Once again, we're going to get into the DOM stuff in just a moment, but this is a great way for us to manage the classes our elements have. Classes give us a lot of power. That's going to actually change the way our element looks on the page. We have a lot of options with CSS. So being able to add or remove a class is a very useful thing within jQuery. So let's scroll down and look at some of our options. So we have this add class here. So that would be a great option initially for us, right? We want to be able to add the collapse class to the down arrow when the question is clicked. So that's one option. But scrolling further, we might find a more optimal option, and that is toggle class. So similar to the way that toggle or slide toggle or fade toggle was working, it managed the state for us, whether the object was collapsed or expanded, or that class exists or does not exist. So more or less, basically this toggle class is a combination of add class and remove class. It's just managing that logic for us. Okay, so let's just look briefly at the examples for toggle class. Scrolling down to the bottom, although we know how this is going to work as we just discussed, here's a quick demo where you can see that there is a class that's going to apply this yellow-black background, and by clicking on these elements, we're able to toggle it on and off. So this is going to be perfect for what we need. So let's go ahead and return back to our application. And we identified earlier our selector. We have this arrow 1 down. It's going to be the first element we want to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste that ID into our jQuery function. And we need to note that it is a ID, so we're going to put the symbol for ID. And let's go ahead and implement our toggle method. So toggle class, and what we're going to do is pass in the name of the class. So since toggle class is expecting a class, we don't have to use the dot notation to denote that. We just have to pass the name simply in quotes. And so now when we click our question function, this should be down here. Let's go ahead and move that. So now when we go ahead and click our question with the ID of Q1, it's going to fade the answer in and out appropriately, as well as toggle this collapse class, which is going to display or hide the arrow. So let's go ahead and give that a shot. Going back into our code, let's go ahead and refresh it and click on our first question. So there we go. We have our down arrows hidden. So next step is actually just removing that class from the up arrow. So as you would have imagined, toggle is going to handle this for us as well. So right after our arrow down code, we're going to go ahead and write the code for the arrow up to show itself. So let's go ahead and copy and paste this ID into our jQuery function right below. Use the ID notation to select it, and we're going to go ahead and just toggle this class as well. So because the up arrow began with the collapse class on it, this initial click is going to actually remove the collapse class, therefore displaying our up arrow. Let's go ahead and hop in the browser again, refresh our page, and there we go. We have our down arrow now hiding and the up arrow revealing itself when the question's first expanded, and vice versa. So we did it. One brief way that we can improve this here, jQuery will allow us to pass in multiple arguments to this jQuery function. So because the same action of this toggle class with the collapse class is being performed on the up and down arrow, we can actually go ahead and just include this all in the same method. Separated by a comma, this will toggle these classes at the exact same time for us. So just to confirm it still works, we're going to go back here and try the same action again. Cool. So next step is we're going to do this just for the next 2 questions. We can go ahead and copy and paste this 2 more times. And then we just need to adjust the IDs appropriately. So basically, everywhere where you see a 1 can be replaced by a 2 or 3. Awesome. So now let's go back and play with our FAQ page. All of our questions are expandable to reveal the answer, and all of our arrows are appropriately adjusting. Awesome. So having a look at our code, you can see that each function that we wrote is fairly similar. It's doing the exact same thing for each question. And because programmers are lazy, we want to find a way to simplify this so we only have to write this function 1 time instead of 3. So in order to kind of work through this together, I'm going to introduce something that I've been mentioning since we began this project, which is the DOM.